Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story: how easy is it to accidentally buy clothing made from forced labor cotton? A new report shows that the possibility is much larger than expected, even in the U.S. That's despite Congress having already banned companies from importing the material. The U.S. is revoking certain permission for selling microchips to a sanctioned Chinese giant. Find out which American tech companies are feeling the heat. The U.S. and Philippines sinking a mock enemy ship in the South China Sea. More on the message it's sending to Beijing. And the latest chapter of TikTok's legal showdown with the U.S. government, including revealing facts about the social media app's billionaire Chinese founder. Stay tuned for the full scoop. Banned Chinese exports are reportedly sneaking through loopholes in U.S. law again. Research published on Tuesday shows nearly 1/5 of the products it tested used banned cotton from the Xinjiang region. The U.S. accuses Beijing of committing human rights violations and genocide against the Uyghur ethnic group there, and has banned the use of its products made with forced labor. Here's more. From cotton swabs to shoes and clothes, researchers tested over 800 products from both American and global retailers and found almost 20% of them contain the same DNA as Xinjiang cotton. Zooming in on the products made of Xinjiang cotton, nearly 60% of them came from American brands. The agencies declined to name those retailers, but clearly stated what countries the products and brands came from. The dates of these purchases vary from last February up until this March. Worth noting, a 2022 federal report says nearly 90% of China's cotton originated from Xinjiang. Xinjiang is a region in the northwest of China and is where most Uyghurs in the country reside. The U.S. has openly urged the Chinese regime to stop its human rights violations, including forced labor and even genocide against the Uyghurs. Only a week ago, a U.S. Labor Department official told Congress that the Uyghurs in Xinjiang are, quote, living in fear. She urged American businesses to not operate in the region. Congress also passed the Uyghurs Forced Labor Prevention Act 4 years ago. The law requires American businesses to prove their supply chains in China don't use forced labor. If they can't, their Xinjiang imports are banned from entering the U.S. market. But there's a loophole. Some of the world's largest producers of cotton products, including Asian countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, and Bangladesh, purchase massive quantities of finished fabric from China, meaning they use Chinese cotton fabric for products that are considered to be made in those countries. And those goods are likely to be sold to customers in the U.S. and elsewhere. Washington makes another move in its microchip war with China. Some chip makers got a jolt as the U.S. revokes their licenses for sales of chips to Chinese tech giant Huawei. This comes hot on the heels of Huawei's controversial AI-enabled laptop launch. NTD's Don Ma has more.
The U.S. has made another move in its computer chip war with China. The Commerce Department has revoked licenses to sell chips used for laptops and handsets to sanctioned Chinese tech giant Huawei. Sources are saying that the affected companies include Intel and Qualcomm, and the Commerce Department confirmed the revoked licenses but did not name companies. The move comes after the release of Huawei's first AI-enabled laptop.
Chinese leader Xi Jinping is on the second stop of his Europe visit, Serbia. He's there to bolster ties with the country as it seeks entry into the European Union. Serbia's president told Xi Wednesday that when it comes to cooperation with China, quote, the sky is the limit. China has poured billions of dollars into Serbia. The country has been key in China's Belt and Road Initiative in Europe. The project is designed to increase Beijing's influence around the globe through economic investment. Critics say it could serve as a Chinese Trojan horse and gateway to Europe. Xi's next stop in Europe is Hungary. A warship going up in smoke, sending a message of deterrence to Beijing. The U.S. and the Philippines sank the mock enemy ship during a joint drill Wednesday. The exercise was staged off the Philippine coast and comes amid rising tensions between the South Asian country and China. In recent months, Chinese Coast Guard ships have rammed into Filipino boats, fired water cannons, and directed lasers at the vessels. That's to block the Filipino ships from resupplying troops stationed in the South China Sea. Both countries claim parts of those waters, while China claims nearly all of that territory. A 2016 tribunal ruled Beijing's claim invalid. A third of global shipping passes through the body of water, and it holds a strategic location. Washington is watching the tensions there closely. The U.S. warned Beijing this March that an armed attack against Filipino vessels would trigger a response from the U.S. The Philippines is America's treaty ally. Back to the drills, it involved around 16,000 Filipino and U.S. troops. It will run until May 10th. Rocket debris falling from the sky. The remains of a Chinese rocket plunged back to Earth in southeastern China Tuesday. It is unclear if anyone was injured. A video clip circulating online shows a Chinese ambulance and fire truck on standby in a village there. It happened after China launched a rocket on Tuesday to put 4 satellites in space. The West has criticized China for its handling of space junk. In 2022, a Chinese module blasted through the sky above California. The same year, a Chinese rocket booster slammed into the moon after floating in space for 7 years. A year earlier, in 2021, Chinese rocket debris plunged into the Indian Ocean. NASA slammed China at the time for failing to minimize risks to people and property on Earth. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese pushing back against China on Wednesday. That's after Beijing blamed Australia for a dangerous clash between troops in international airspace.
The explanation given overnight by Chinese authorities does not satisfy any change to the position that we've taken.
The Prime Minister is referring to a Saturday incident over the Yellow Sea, where a Chinese warplane used flares against an Australian Navy helicopter in international airspace. The Yellow Sea lies between China and the Korean Peninsula. Flares can damage a helicopter's rotor blades or engines, downing the aircraft. The clash is the most serious encounter between the two nations' militaries since last November. Albanese stated that the Australian troops were carrying out missions to enforce UN sanctions against North Korea at the time. Beijing said the helicopter flew deliberately close to China's airspace in a provocative move. Albanese rejected that argument and called China's response unprofessional and unacceptable. Albanese added he will raise the disagreement with China's premier when he visits Australia next month. Updates on TikTok's legal battle. The social media platform and its Chinese parent ByteDance are challenging a federal law signed by President Joe Biden. The law mandates TikTok to divest from its Chinese ownership or face removal from U.S. app stores. In a court filing, the companies say a sale is simply not possible, adding that moving TikTok's source code to the U.S. would take years, and noting that Beijing has made clear that it would not allow ByteDance to divest TikTok's recommendations algorithm. But former Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin says he believes the app's critical algorithm could be rebuilt if it's bought out. He's expressed interest in gathering investors to buy it. Reacting to TikTok's lawsuit on Wednesday, the chairman of the House Select Committee on China, John Molinar, said he is confident that the legislation will be upheld, adding, quote, "It is telling that TikTok would rather spend its time, money, and effort fighting in court than solving the problem by breaking up with the CCP." Washington has said its aim is not to ban the app, but to see Chinese ownership ended on national security grounds. The lawsuit also shed light on the current status of TikTok's Chinese founder, Zhang Yiming. Zhang is a Chinese national living in Singapore. He now owns roughly 21% of ByteDance, worth more than $40 billion. Global investors like BlackRock own 58%. ByteDance employees own the remaining 21%, including about 7,000 Americans. A sales slowdown for Tesla's made in China. It's a sharp contrast with rising EV sales of other brands in the world's largest auto market. According to the China Passenger Car Association, Tesla only sold about 62,000 China-made electric vehicles in April. That is an 18% dip from a year earlier. Deliveries of China-made Model 3 and Model Y vehicles slid 30% from the month before. This comes as China's new energy vehicle sales jumped more than 30% in April. This includes battery-powered EVs and plug-in hybrids. CPCA data shows sales were estimated to hit 800,000 units last month. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for 3 years. If you'd like to support us, consider donating. Find us at donorbox.org/China-in-focus or subscribe to our partner platform Epic TV, where you can watch our full episodes. Just click the link down below. Here's what to look out for in our second half. Coming up, a pro-democracy song is now banned in Hong Kong at Beijing's request. What it means for free speech and for Google. Russia raids the homes of Falun Gong practitioners, a group heavily persecuted by the Chinese Communist regime. The co-chair of the International Religious Freedom Summit speaks to us about the persecution of faith communities. And reviving traditional values through Chinese classical music and dance. New York-based Shenyang Performing Arts is wrapping up its 2024 global season by one audience member called the show Nourishment for the Spirit. More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you tomorrow.